Shrinantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha Aye Dhamani Dibhyani Tastu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Tumeva Viditva Timritumeti Naina Pantha Viddati Anaya Naina Pantha Yanaya Viddati. From Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Listen, O children of immortal bliss. Listen, those who live in celestial abode. I have seen the effulgent one who is beyond darkness. Knowing him alone, one can transcend death. There is no other way. There is no other way. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Now I must announce our guest speaker, Pravrajika Virajaprana, a nun of the San Francisco Vedanta Society. She will speak this morning, the transforming power of holy company. Pravrajika Virajaprana.
Good morning to you all. I'd first of all like to thank Swami Chaitanananda for inviting me again to the Vedanta Society of St. Louis and the opportunity to share a few ideas with you this morning on the transforming power of holy company. In the summer of 1895, Swami Vivekananda and a group of students went to Thousand Island Park in New York for some weeks. One of the texts that Swamiji discussed at that time was the Narada Bhakti Sutras. Swamiji's comments on this profound work of devotion, especially the effects of holy company, are truly inspired. The Narada Bhakti Sutras, or the Gospel of Divine Love, is considered an invaluable practical guide for spiritual seekers. This amazing book contains only 84 sutras, but these 84 sutras contain not only descriptions of devotion and divine love in all of its stages, but also the practice necessary for the achievement of both. Sri Ramakrishna's instructions to spiritual seekers in general was that the path of devotion, as prescribed by Narada, was the easiest, the best, the most efficacious for this age. And having given this unequivocal recommendation, he emphasized that this was the experience and conclusion of innumerable saints and holy persons who had preceded him. Sri Ramakrishna thought so highly of the sage Narada that many of the teachings in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna center around the instructions given in the Narada Bhakti Sutras. Now this morning, what I would like to do is expand the meaning of devotion beyond the mere path of bhakti. We need devotion. We need love for any path that we follow. You know, it's this fervor this love that focuses our will. And Swamiji said in Thousand Island Park, love concentrates the will without effort. So we need this intensity. We need devotion for whatever path we follow. In discussing, the conditions for acquiring love for spiritual life, Narada emphasizes that holy company is the most extraordinary thing that can happen to us in our lives. It's the most extraordinary influence that we can have to hasten our growth. Now, there are several verses in the Narada Bhakti Sutras that address holy company, but there are three main ones that focus on the transforming power. First, verse 38. The principal means of attaining devotion is the grace of a great soul. 39. It is hard to obtain the grace of a great soul because it is difficult to recognize such a person. But if the seeker receives his or her grace, the influence of such a one, though subtle and incomprehensible, is infallible. That effect is unerring in its effect. And third, verse number 40, through the grace of God alone, an aspirant attains the company of the holy and thereby receives the grace of God. Now, this is Swami Vivekananda's rendering of these three verses, 38, 39, and 40, that he gave at Thousand Island Park. Get the mercy of God and of his greatest children. These are the two chief ways to God. The company of these children of light is very hard to get. 5 minutes in their company will change a whole life. And if you really want it enough, one will come to you. The presence of those who love God make a place holy. Such is the glory of the children of the Lord. They are He, and when they speak, their words are scriptures. The place where they have been becomes filled with their vibrations, and those going there feel them and have a tendency to become holy also. Now, before proceeding, we might ask the relevant question, who is a holy person? And we can say that a truly holy person is one who is centered in God consciousness. He or she is living in God. So being in the company of such a person is the same as being in the company of the divine. Our scriptures give various descriptions of illumined souls and highly advanced seekers. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, we have verses on a person of steady wisdom, all the characteristics of a person of steady wisdom. In verse 54, Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, how does such a holy person walk? How does that person sit? How does he move about? So he wants to know what are the characteristics by which one may recognize such a holy person. In chapter 12, a description is given of a true devotee of God. And in chapter 14, one who has risen above the three gunas, one who is trigunatita. The Srimad Bhagavatam discusses at length the qualities and signs of a holy person. Furthermore, a whole chapter is devoted to the sanctifying power of holy association. Skanda 11, chapter 12. Other Puranas, the Upanishads, Shankaracharya, all their works contain indications and marks of a holy person. What are those marks? In general, it is said that such a person is free from all attachments, selfishness. That person is same-sided, full of mercy, and friendly to all. Serene, centered in the self, and illuminated by the light and love of God. Shankara says in the Vivekachudamani that a knower of Brahman is calm, like a fire that has consumed its fuel. He or she is like a boundless reservoir of mercy that knows no reason. These magnanimous souls do good to others, like the spring, and who, having themselves crossed this dreadful ocean of birth and death, help others also without any motive whatsoever. Now, these enlightened personalities provide us with a transparent window into the world of the Spirit. Without the example of such holy people, these lighted windows, we can't really understand the subtle, true meaning of things spoken of in mystical religion, no matter how much we read, how philosophical or clever we may be, or how eloquently we may write or speak. Their lives are concrete demonstrations of the subtle realities that we read about in our scriptures. Their lives bear out the texts because they themselves are the embodiment of the truth contained therein. Swami Ramakrishnananda, a scholarly disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, said they could not understand the truths of higher religion until they had come into contact with Sri Ramakrishna. After all, words are just the outer husk. It is what we are that matters. The following of Christ says, if you know the whole Bible by heart and all the sayings of the philosophers, what good would it be without God's love and grace? As Swamiji puts Narada's instruction, get the mercy of God and his greatest children. These are the two chief ways to God. That's the good news. But then here's the bad news. Narada mentions that it is extremely difficult to obtain the grace of a great soul and to be benefited by his or her company. Swamiji also says the company of these children of light is very hard to get. Now, these great ones, they're so compassionate, so eager to help struggling seekers. Why should it be so difficult to come into contact with them? Our teachers say there are various explanations for this difficulty. One fairly obvious explanation is that knowers of God are reticent. They don't advertise themselves, and if they do, we should stay far away from them. They are also rare. It's hard to find them. And even if you have heard about or know such a person, perhaps you're separated by thousands of miles, or for health or other reasons, you can't avail yourself of that person's company. And even if everything is favorable, you may not have the opportunity. The late Swami Ashokananda gave a class in San Francisco on the Narada Bhakti Sutras in the 1940s, and he gave another slant to this subject of acquiring holy company through a humorous comment. He said, don't just think, well, now here's a knower of God. I think I will go and have his company. After all, he also has something to say about it. He may not want your company. There are other reasons why it is difficult to come into contact with a great soul. An individual may not be inwardly receptive. We have to be sincere, earnest. We really have to be interested in higher spiritual truth. In several places in the Gospel, M records when the devotees would come to see Sri Ramakrishna, they would bring friends. And after some time, the friends would say, we'll go and wait in the boat. You finish here. Absolutely no interest in higher spiritual life. Further, our teachers and scriptures make it clear that getting holy company, understanding the depth of its significance, is not as simple as we might think. There is a tendency to oversimplify holy company. It certainly sounds very pleasant, easy, soothing, but it's not a passive experience. To keep holy company can be quite strenuous and demanding, as many who have lived with and served great souls have testified. So the magnitude of the presence, the power of holiness, the intensity of spiritual vibrations of a great soul can be overwhelming if one is unable to absorb it. It is said before Swami Shivananda Mahapurush Maharaj became the president of the Ramakrishna order, he was so serious, so undrawn. He would enter through one door and the monks would exit through another door just to avoid coming into contact with him. So intense was the vibration. Another reason that it's difficult is we may be physically near a great soul, but be far away mentally. Simply being in the presence of a saintly person does not necessarily mean that we are having holy company if we are not in tune, if we are not communing with that person. Our karma often pulls us in different directions, so we are scattered. Our intentions and our resolves are good, but we get sidetracked. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So if we're not centered, our mental tendencies have a tendency to drag our attention, pulling us here and there. So there has to be an attempt to prepare the ground. The seed may be sown, but will not sprout if the ground remains fallow. Swami Brahmananda used to say, how many are ready? Yes, many people come to us. We have the treasure to offer them, but they only want small things. So to reap the benefit of holy company, persistent effort, sadhana, is required. Now, furthermore, one may not be able to recognize a saintly person. It's difficult to judge from our standpoint who is really holy. A good example is Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother. How many recognized that she was Divine Mother of the universe? Sri Ramakrishna's disciples openly admit that they had no idea of her greatness. In fact, when Swamiji was in this country, he wrote a letter, none of you have understood who she is. And these were great disciples. Sri Ramakrishna mentions in the Gospel that an eggplant seller cannot evaluate the value of a diamond. And he explains in a parable that a rich man sent his servant to the market with a diamond, and he sent him to an eggplant seller. And he said, how many eggplants, how much will you give for this diamond? And the eggplant seller said, 9 seers of eggplant. And the man went back. Again, he was sent to the market. He went to a cloth dealer, give you so much cloth. Finally, he went to a jeweler who saw the diamond. He said, I will give you 500 million rupees. It's difficult to assess who is truly holy. The Katha Upanishad tells us there are many who do not even hear of the Atman. And among those who do, many do not understand it. Wonderful is the teacher, and blessed is the intelligent student who, when taught, comprehends the truth. So this is why it is necessary for some insight, no matter how little, some inner appreciation of spirituality in order to perceive it in another person. It's our sincerity and our yearning that attracts us to a holy person. And similarly, a holy person acts like a magnet that attracts spiritual seekers. However, in spite of these various difficulties, through the grace of God, if we do succeed in coming into contact with a holy person, Narada says, though the influence is subtle and incomprehensible, it's infallible. It's unerring. It is sure to work. Nowhere else can we find such an assurance. And that's the major point of this morning's discussion. The actual transforming power of holy company, its tangible, uplifting effect. As Swamiji says, 5 minutes in their company will change a whole life. And if you really want it enough, one will come to you. The powerful influence of a holy person, it's inscrutable. We can't trace exactly how it works or how it produces a change in us. And quite often, we're totally unaware of the actual change that is taking place. Holy Mother gives an example. If you're asleep and someone moves your bed to another room, it's not until you wake up that you will realize you have been moved to another place. The subtle effect of holy company may not be felt in the beginning, and we may not initially recognize its value, but slowly and surely an inner transformation takes place. And eventually we become aware of the actual change that has taken place. Our mind is a state of subtle vibration. So when we enter the field of an intense spiritual vibration, our mind begins to vibrate in a similar way. So we become more sensitive to spiritual stimuli. And that is why we are cautioned by our teachers, especially in the beginning, to protect ourselves from unspiritual influences, especially people. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, put a cage around a tender plant to protect it from cattle. And in California, we would say to protect it from deer. And there's profound truth in what Sri Ramakrishna has said. For a long time, until we are strong enough, we are very susceptible not only to external influences, but to the tendencies of our own minds. Association is the basis of our existence in the relative world. We always associate with something, connect with something, relate to someone. This is how we exist. And that is why holy association is paramount, because it loosens our grip and eventually cuts through our attachments. It removes the doubts that we too can experience our own divine nature. It instills us with faith and hope and courage. We are repeatedly told by the spiritual masters that neither scriptures, nor philosophy, nor endless intellectual discussion can make such a pure impression or transform life effectively as contact with a holy person. According to Swami Vivekananda, unless our consciousness is quickened by the spiritual impulse coming from such a person, inner transformation is not really possible. In one of the hymns that Swamiji wrote on Sri Ramakrishna, he said, Shakti Samudra Samuta Tarangam. Sri Ramakrishna was a huge wave in the ocean of Shakti. Now, all of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna emphasized the need for and efficacy of holy company. As Swami Shivananda said, holy association can change the course of one's entire life. We know it from our own experience. And further, he said that they would spend an hour or two in the company of Sri Ramakrishna, and sometimes there would be very little talk, but the effect of that association would last for days. Swami Turiyananda echoed this experience by saying being in Sri Ramakrishna's company for 1 hour of devotional singing would fill them with such exuberant joy. It would continue for days, though they did not know how or why it happened. Now, this leads us to the main point that Narada is making in the sutra. The effect of holy company is infallible. It never fails to produce the result. True, it may be difficult to get holy company, and even if we do, the influence is very subtle. It's incomprehensible. It's hard to understand how it works, but the actual effect is infallible. Human teachers are like so many conduits through which the same divine power flows. The Mundaka Upanishad tells us that a knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. Swamiji said these children of light are He, and when they speak their words or scriptures, they have become Brahman. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our mind is in a state of subtle vibration. When we come into contact with a holy person and we're in their company, their vibrations affect our minds. How does it work? How does it actually transform us? For one, we can say it cleans the mind. Holy company cleans the mind of all worldliness. It turns the direction of our mind and generates remembrance of God. It roots out on spiritual tendencies and implants spiritual ones. As a result, our interest in spiritual life deepens. As Swamiji mentioned, there's overwhelming concern, rightly so, of the coronavirus. It's highly contagious. Holy company is also contagious. And it stimulates yearning for spiritual experience. It inspires us to want to attain that state ourselves, to become like these great ones, become free, pure, strong. Shankara says that even though our longing for liberation may be lukewarm, it will intensify through the grace of holy company. Such company is a powerful living influence for awakening the divine within. There are also other benefits of holy association. The experiences of holy people are an indispensable guide for us as we proceed. Yes, we gain some understanding through reading descriptions in the books, but living demonstrations of subtle realities deepens our comprehension. Again, Swamiji says, the vibrations of the holy ones have a tendency to make others holy. Hearing their words, observing their character, how they interact with others, how they live their lives, it provides us with a map like nothing else can of a territory that we are unfamiliar with. So initially we are unaware of our divinity, but slowly we learn to recognize it in another person. So holy company lifts our mind to a nobler level of thought. And this upliftment or expansion of consciousness is no small gain, considering that this is the biggest problem that we have in spiritual life, is trying to transcend all smallness, to expand our consciousness, trying to go beyond the limits of this world. Sri Ramakrishna says that the disease has become chronic. We can't get rid of the ailment without the help of a physician. Again, in Swamiji's hymn, he says, Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam. So the guru, that guru power, is the physician for healing worldliness. Holy company is an ideal antidote for egotism. Sri Ramakrishna said a drunkard should be given rice water as an antidote. It's amazing. Sri Ramakrishna had a solution for everything, even for drunkards. Holy company removes our intoxication, which begins with and ends with me and mine. One of my jobs in the Temple Garden in San Francisco is to take care of the compost. And one of the sisters recently purchased 2 big gorilla tubs for my composting effort. They're wonderful tubs. And I thought how to keep these out of the hands of the other sisters. So I found some nice yellow tape, and I labeled each tub. On one side it says me, and on the other side it says mine. So clearly I have a ways to go before I get rid of the intoxication of me and mine. Swami Turiyananda wrote in a letter, Shankara glorified holy company as a ferry boat that helps one to cross the ocean of Maya. We have learned from the scriptures that if you put all spiritual practices on one side of a scale and the result of a moment's holy company on the other, the latter will be heavier. There is a beautiful Sanskrit verse in Shankara's hymn, Bhaja Govindam, that explains in a condensed way the transforming power of holy company. Satsangatve nisangatvam. Nisangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nishchalatatvam. Nishchalatatve jivan muktihi. So through holy company, satsangatve, there arises non-attachment, nisangatvam. Holy company snaps our attachments. Through non-attachment, there arises freedom from delusion, nirmohatvam. If we are no longer attached in the same way to this world, slowly we become free of delusion. Freedom from delusion brings steadfast mind, nishchalatatvam. Mind becomes steady, mind becomes calm, one-pointed, focused. Through steadfastness comes jivan muktihi, liberation and life. Having considered the life-changing effect, the efficacy of holy company, we come to our final question. Are there various ways to have holy company? And we can say there are not only various ways, there are various degrees, all of which are extremely helpful for spiritual seekers. We may not have had the good fortune to come into contact with a great saint, and most probably not an incarnation. But the power, the Guru Shakti of an incarnation lasts for centuries and is passed down through an unbroken succession of teachers, the Parampara. And this line of teachers have a sampradaya, or a spiritual tradition. Whoever comes within the orbit of a spiritual master of this caliber is in the direct line of this transforming, uplifting power. And from this stems the idea of a guru, spiritual teacher, which in and of itself is a vast subject. But here we can say the guru is a potent source of holy company. In the gospel, Sri Ramakrishna says dirt can be removed from water by a purifying agent. then one sees one's reflection in it. One cannot see one's face in a mirror if the mirror is covered with dirt. So the Guru is praised as one who through the collyrium of knowledge has opened the eyes of one blinded by the disease of ignorance, and who by kindling the fire of self-knowledge burns away the karma accumulated through innumerable births, and whose grace completely dries up the ocean of relative existence. Now, furthermore, there is the company of fellow seekers. Sri Krishna says in the Gita that those who have rightly resolved, those who are living a spiritual life and who are one-pointedly dedicated to achieving the goal, are to be considered holy. Sri Ramakrishna strongly recommended that spiritual aspirants keep company with one another, that they should gather together, meditate, sing, worship, and discuss spiritual ideas together. He says a hemp smoker loves the company of another hemp smoker. So our individual effort gets a tremendous boost from the collective goodwill and aspiration of others. It's very stimulating to be in the company of those who have a common interest. And it's natural to want to talk about it, share thoughts and stories with one another. So fellow seekers can be a source of inspiration and holy company. Our spiritual sisters and brothers help us to stay on track, especially when the going gets rough and the everyday grind. We are all in the same boat together. Swami Turiyananda used to say, if you can't keep the company of those who have mastered the mind, think of them. The seed of that subtle power that has been sown will continue to germinate. And we can read about them, especially inspirational reading. A holy person's own words, letters, conversations, teachings, reminiscences is another excellent way to have holy company when the physical presence of others is not possible. And here we have to be very grateful to Swami Chaitanananda for all of the work he has done in providing us this avenue of holy company. And I'm not receiving a commission for saying this. I mean it. And finally, we can find the holiest association within our own hearts, in the Atman. The soul of our soul dwells right in our own hearts. We are that divine being. But I'd like to conclude with what Swami Turiyananda wrote to a devotee. If you do not have holy association outside, then engage your mind with the association of the Lord who is within you. By turning your attention within your own heart, the Swami says, you will always have the benefit of satsanga, holy company. The company of that Sat, or eternal existence, who is within you. And what can be more transforming than this awareness of our true self? Thank you.
We are grateful to Swami Pravrajika Virajaprana for his beautiful talk. Holy company. How it works. Joginma, a woman disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, divorced, one daughter, husband was alcoholic, could not stay with her husband, came back to her father, depressed. But she was related with Balaram Boshu, another devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Balaram used to rent a boat. Every Sunday he used to take all Calcutta devotees in his boat and go to Dakshineshwar on Sundays. And whole day the devotees would just stay with Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. She used to cook, make hair for mother. And she mentioned that whole day our minds went such a higher plane of consciousness, unbelievable. Then at night we would come back to Calcutta. Calcutta to Dakshineshwar, nearly 4 miles distance. She mentioned that whole week with that intoxication of Sri Ramakrishna's company continued in our hearts. We used to feel his presence, his teachings would work through our minds. Not only that, on Sunday again we are supposed to go. Early in the morning we would finish all our household work. Our minds are staged in Calcutta, our bodies are staged in Calcutta, but mind is staged in Dakshineshwar. And we forgot all of our family problems, all kinds of problems we forgot, only carrying Sri Ramakrishna in our hearts. That is the power of the Holy Company. Another story comes to my mind. Swami Vivekananda returned from America to India. His disciple Sharat Chandra Chakravarti told Swamiji, one day I want to serve Sri Ramakrishna and his disciples, Sri Ramakrishna's worship and his disciples in Alam Bazar Mall. Swamiji says, Bengal, he is from East Bengal, you cannot do it. So Swami Ramakrishna is a very strict person. He will start the worship early in the morning and you better not to make that kind of decision. No, Swamiji, please give me a chance. I want to serve Sri Ramakrishna's worship and his disciples one day. He was a postmaster. What happened? He went to Calcutta, bought all the dry groceries and flowers, other things, and bought it before morning, previous day. And early in the morning, he brought fresh vegetables, fish, and other sweet cards and sweets. He went to Calcutta and told Suresh Chandra Datta, another disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, household disciple, and told him that this is my desire. Well, I shall help you. From the Chitpur market, they bought all those things before sunrise. He took his horse carriage and brought all these materials to the Alam Bazar monastery. And Swamiji was very impressed. Hari, my goodness, you have come so early. Yes. Tell me, it is not you. Tell me who helped you. Well, Suresh Babu helped me. Why did he not come with you? Well, Swamiji, we bought sweet card, generally the northern part. Well, he is carrying that sweet card on his head. Because in this Kashipur road was not very even. Well, this jerk of the horse carriage will shuffle that sweet card and it will be hard for Sri Ramakrishna to eat. Swamiji burst into tears and says, Bengal, did you see whom Sri Ramakrishna touched has become golden? Thakur jade chhuyeche, tara sona hoye geche. Those people's lives are completely transformed. whom Ramakrishna touched. You know, when I was working that they lived with God, this thing was in my mind. Here is a raw material coming from the society. Maybe 2-3 years lived with Sri Ramakrishna, and what kind of transformation took place in their lives. That was my intention, to show people that how Sri Ramakrishna transformed people. Raw materials, they have husband, wife, children, family problems, divorce, death, all kinds of disease, all kinds of problems. Bas came to with Thakur, transformed. They let God intoxicated life. How is it possible? Sri Ramakrishna demonstrated. For example, when I was working on Ramakrishna, I saw him. I put one section, blessed is my family trouble. One section about him. His wife could not get along with his brothers' wives and other family people. At midnight, he took his wife, left home. There's a breakdown on the horse carriage. Finally, at night, reached to his sister's home in Baranagar. Then he came to Dakshineshwar. As you know, I graphically described his first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna. And he got that kind of intoxication. You know, we abar esheche. That fellow has again come. Sri Ramakrishna says, Afing kheko moyur. A peacock was fed opium one day at 4 o'clock. The same 4 o'clock, the peacock comes and for a dose of opium. What graphically Thakur mentioned that thing about him. Hey, that fellow again has come. Opium, which brings intoxication. A holy company bringing intoxication. You know, when we reach Sri Ramakrishna's Kathamrita, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, that is holy company. I can tell you a little of my life's experience. On Sundays, sometimes when mind is not brahmachari, newly joined, mind was not working right. So I took one volume of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Kathamrita, which is 250 pages each volume. So I decided that one volume I shall read in one day. How? I started to read only dialogue. I would not read the poems. I would not read the stories because those things I know. And by 5 hours, I finished the whole book. 40, 50 pages I can read in 1 hour. Then I used to go for a walk. Then all these dialogues would work in my mind. Really, it took all thoughts of the world. That is the power of the holy company. Books. Holy company, holy man will not go to your home every day, but our books work for us. Swami Prabhupada used to tell me. Holy company. According to Vedantic tradition, what is the holy company? They call it Sat Sangha. Sat means existence, Atman. Association of the Atman is called holy company. That is the primary meaning of the Sat Sangha. Second, holy company means holy people. She beautifully described, quoting from the Gita and the Bhagavatam, the signs of a real devotee. It is a beautiful, I think 40 or 50 adjectives are in the Bhagavatam, in the 11th book, the signs of a real holy person. Somebody asked Chaitanya Dev that what is holy company? He said, just coming in contact with that person, your mind will chant God's name. That is holy company. It is very powerful. Narada says, Amoghasya. Amogh, infallible. It works. Shankara also mentioned these three things, Durlabam Trayamevaita Devanugrahetugam Manushyattam Mumukshittam Mahapurusha Sankshara. Listen, these three things are rare in human life. Manushyattam, human birth, Mumukshattam, burning desire for liberation, and Mahapurusha Sankshaya, the company of a holy person. Swamiji was telling him, I have all three, still I have not realized God. Could you tell me? In Varanagar Math, Swamiji was lamenting to him. I have all three. I have human birth, I have a burning desire for liberation, I have the company of Sri Ramakrishna, still I have not realized God. Of course, Swamiji got Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Kashipur before that. But Swamiji's that longing, yearning, tremendous. Baburam Maharaj said, in Varanagar Math, sometimes we used to put Swamiji's pillow in the sun. The pillow was wet through the tears, crying for Sri Ramakrishna at night. How Thakur touched these people and how they transformed. It is amazing. Same thing we find the direct disciples of Ramakrishna. Those who came in their contact, how their lives are transformed. Holy company. You cannot buy in the market. You may be a millionaire. That is the reason Amy used to say, look at Sri Ramakrishna. There are so many Ramakrishna ashramas in all over Calcutta, so that the devotees can go to the nearest place and have the company of Sri Ramakrishna. I tell you frankly, Swami Satprakashananda came here in 1938. All these years, these Ramakrishna's teachings, Vedantic teachings, are flowing through this place. St. Louis people should be proud that there is a Ramakrishna center here. As always Swamiji said, each center of Sri Ramakrishna is a limb of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami may come, Swami may go, but Sri Ramakrishna is the permanent residence here. His life and teachings will flow through this place all through the ages. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyet dukkha bhag bhavet. May all beings be happy. All should be free from disease. May all people be good and none be subject to misery. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be blissful. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.